it's sending torque to where it needs to go, so doing a pretty good job so far. Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, I'm going to be reviewing the all-new Nissan Pathfinder Rock Creek Edition, and basically we're going to see if Nissan's new off-roader can actually handle the off-road. With that being said, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into it. Now quickly, we have 7.7 inches of ground clearance, and then we have these pretty aggressive all-terrain tires. Tire and wheel setup is 265, 60, 17 front and rear. And so I think that these tires are going to carry the Pathfinder quite a bit because they're just a lot more aggressive than what you normally see in this segment. And let's get into the off-roading. Now we are descending into our first obstacle. I've got the Rock Creek in sand mode, and my biggest concern, honestly, and we are kind of on three wheels, is frankly ground clearance. I feel like the tires are going to be really good. I'm just worried about the ground clearance here with the Rock Creek. Pretty minimal slipping though with the tires, which again, I feel like the tires really will carry this package. I'm impressed that I don't think we bottomed out at all. I didn't hear anything. Struggling to get up this a little bit though. We'll be fine. Just got to keep into the throttle and then slowly carry through, hit the top here. So on the first obstacle, the tires got a little bit less grip than I initially expected, but I do not have them aired down whatsoever. So yeah, pretty good. Now this next test is actually going to slightly test articulation, and then definitely with ground clearance a little bit, and then also with tire grip and the four-wheel drive system. So this is where we'll get hung up. Come on. Oh, I let off a little bit too early. So that was driver error. I'm going to just regroup because that was completely driver error. I let off the throttle just a little bit too early on that. So I'm gonna get into this again. Okay, come on. It was figuring it out. There we go. Ooh, ouch. Definitely gonna have to check that again. Ground clearance. So as you guys can see, this is what we hit. It looks like just a piece of plastic right here that's covering some components. And that's kind of the thing about the Rock Creek, is it has a bunch of plastic covering components. It doesn't have actual skid plates underneath, but you can see just superficial. Okay, so we are in sand mode, which should be the best mode for this. And so we're just gonna kind of creep up here. And this is where most vehicles start to get caught up. It's about right here. It's sending torque to where it needs to go, so doing a pretty good job so far. Oh man, this is so nerve-wracking going up. This might be the first crossover to make it up, but I don't know if this has the ground clearance to make it over this little... I'm worried that we're gonna get high-centered here. Because again, being unibody, independent front rear suspensions, doesn't have a lot of articulation. I know this might not seem exciting, but the whole point of this test, like I said, to test tire grip and the four-wheel drive system. And guess what? The Nissan Pathfinder Rock Creek Edition, despite having the least amount of ground clearance that I have ever tested, is the first crossover to actually make it up the sandy hill. This does have hill descent control. I just turned it on. So I've got it in set manually into first gear. Now this is arguably more nerve-wracking than going up, frankly, because, well, if you're going up and if you get stuck, then basically you just stop and reverse back down, which is not scary at all. Whereas going down, there's a lot of sliding, and basically at the end of this, it's just a cliff. So it's not like a huge drop off, but it's enough that it would completely total any vehicle if it flew off. Yeah, this is slipping and sliding like crazy, but it's doing it. It is getting down. I don't have a lot of control in terms of where the vehicle's going, because I kind of slide backwards and forwards. It's kind of like almost being in the ocean, right? You can kind of direct yourself, but you know the ocean's going to move you where it wants to go, and same thing with that hill. But we made it out. without bottoming out, and made it down rather. And seriously, good job Nissan, because that is the first crossover that's made it up and down that hill. The Jeep Grand Cherokee with the off-road package, which is basically a Trailhawk, could not do it. The Honda Passport Trail Sport couldn't do it. That's crazy. Of course, we need to see how this performs at higher speeds. And also, by the way, if you're ever passing someone with a big trailer and you don't have a big trailer, get off as far as you can, because obviously they have a lot more to contend with than you do. But anyways, now that we can hog more of the road. Now in terms of like high speed capability with this, now it's okay. So I don't have the tires aired down, which would be preferable, because with the higher speed off-roading you typically don't need as much ground clearance, because again, you're just kind of going on dirt roads like this, right? So it's not like you're going to be bottoming out. But yeah, with the tires aired up to where they're normally at, it's pretty bumpy. And so you can't really go super fast. It's kind of like middle speed is what I would describe it as. And so if you're on a dirt road like this, yeah, about this much, like just under 40 miles an hour. And you know, it doesn't feel horrible. It can handle it. It's just not, I don't know, it's just not necessarily the most comfortable. But again, I've got the tires at full PSI, so we didn't even mention that, because tires, honestly, on stuff like this are more important than anything else, because basically they smooth everything out. That being said though, because this has independent front and rear suspension and it is unibody, it's super rigid, and so like you don't have that like wobble back and forth motion that you get in, you know, body on frame trucks and SUVs with solid axles. And so it handles really well. So it does, you don't feel like you're gonna tip over anytime soon, which is good, which is definitely good. That's preferable. If you're gonna be doing some off-road driving. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say. It can handle it, but what I would say is, if most of your trail is going to be stuff like this, if you don't have an air compressor, then basically just make sure the trail is just this and air down your tires and be fine. If you do have an air compressor, yeah, definitely air down your tires on this kind of stuff, and then air it up a bit if you're going to do some slower speed stuff, because again, the ground clearance on this is limited. And so if you have low air pressure where, you know, your vehicle's going to sit lower, yeah, it's not going to be the best not the best situation, but there you go. Okay, so the Pathfinder does not have a specific rock crawl mode, and my guess is because Nissan probably did not intend people to rock crawl with this. Now I'm going to take this extremely slow in first gear, because I, again, don't know if we have the clearance to make it up. So sorry if this is boring, but always got to be safe rather than sorry. One thing that I guess is pretty cool about the Pathfinder is you can honestly take it pretty slow, because you have so much grip from those tires, and the four-wheel drive system's really good too. Oh, went a little bit too much there. And take it slow. I am doing some two-pedal driving. Gotta get over the last little hump. Super solid. Again, I know it might not, well, we're stuck now. There we go. I know it might not look like much on camera, but it's pretty impressive that this can do that. We're basically getting to the end of our off-road review, and I know this one was a little bit more slow-paced, but again, I was limited by the ground clearance here of the Pathfinder, but I have it in a pretty cool position. I think you guys will like to see this. Now you guys can see I've got the Pathfinder parked in this position, and I definitely don't recommend you park your vehicle while it is on three wheels, because you guys can see that wheel right there is off the ground. So yeah, this does show, again, the limitation of the Pathfinder Rock Creek Edition. So again, these tires are perfectly fine. Like, I was able to make it up this little rock wall partially, but if you guys can just kind of like draw a line forward, then you guys will notice as soon as I go a little bit more forward, because by the time this wheel touches the wall, then this whole thing will be touching the wall. So it'll completely bottom out, especially with that section right there. So again, the ground clearance and the breakover angle definitely limit this. But again, there's not an official rock crawling mode with this, so I don't think that Nissan ever intended for this to be doing any sort of rock crawling, but boy does it look cool in the process. Also, the other thing is if I went any higher up on the wall, then the back would also start to bottom out as well. But yeah, this thing is a lot more capable than I expected. And here is, well, where is it? Yeah, there it is. There's our trail damage. Always got to have trail damage in every single Ben Hardy review, apparently. Just a little piece of flappy plastic hanging down that'll pull off a little bit later. No big deal. It's, again, like nothing serious is broken. But again, this is impressive that this made it up, because you guys can see here, we've got all this sand and then slick rock right next to it. And so this really tests the vehicle's traction. And so, yeah, really impressed with the Rock Creek Edition. So to fully summarize today's review, is the Nissan Rock Creek Edition a real off-roader? And the answer is yes, for the most part. Tire grip is fantastic. The four-wheel drive system is also fantastic. This, again, is the first crossover that's ever made it up that sandy hill. And again, I will never use momentum on that sandy hill, because the point of that sandy hill is to show how good the tires are and how good the four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive system is on a vehicle. Now, this obviously was not intended for rock crawling, even though it's called the Rock Creek Edition. That's why it doesn't have a rock crawl mode. And so that's the only type of off-roading that you really can't do with the Rock Creek Edition, because it just doesn't have the ground clearance. And so this, frankly, at the price point that it'll most likely be at, because Nissan hasn't released pricing yet, is going to be a really fun, capable off-roader that is actually affordable for most people and is a practical family car as well. Like I said, the only downside is the ground clearance, and so hopefully Nissan releases like an aftermarket lift package or something for this, just to give it a little bit more ground clearance. But I want you guys to let me know what you think about the Rock Creek Edition, but I guess that this one is the king of the crossovers at this time. I'll see ya.